Kyle Mohan Racing. Welcome back to the channel. We're talking Rotary. That's what we do here. I hope everybody has been enjoying the tech talks, following the drift team, checking out our custom engine builds, and make sure to check out the website because we're putting new parts and merch on the website every week. So today I'm at the lapping table and I get a lot of questions about lapping. Lapping is always a hot topic. When is it appropriate? How much material can be cut off? When is too much cut off? How important is nitriding? I mean, there's so many topics to cover, but I think this was a perfect example of appropriate lapping. The customer brought in a 12A race engine. It had obvious long-term wear, lots of mileage, lots of usage. And it was under question of whether or not it should be lapped. The choice became to lap it. There were some burn marks. And you can see, sorry, it's a little dirty, but you can see these hot spots, these burn marks. And my opinion, is, and I think this is shared throughout most engine builders, that if you have anything like that, that's a potential for damage. It needs to be flattened out. There could be shrinkage, and there could be cracking. So we also need to check for cracking when you have hot spots like that, because it becomes an issue of was that heat from a rotor touch? Was that heat from cooling issues? Some kind of metal and face damage or contact has happened here. Now, I found it interesting. Another shop, I'm not even going to bring up who it is, was going to just put this together. They were going to go with no lapping, even though it had significant wear and burn marks. And the owner, the customer, became concerned. He thought, hey, maybe I should have this checked out, get a second opinion, just make sure that those things aren't issues, because he watches the channel. And so it was brought in. I agreed. The burn marks we have here, the wear we had on this, definitely was a candidate for lapping. We wanted to check, make sure everything flattened out. It looked like we had enough material. It had never been lapped in the past. And obviously, being a Bridgeport, being a 12A, these are housings that have had work done. They're part of a matching motor set. And it would be difficult to replace all of these housings due to wear or damage. So again, this is a great candidate for lapping, attempting to remove the damage, keep them within OEM specs, and give them a new lease on life, fresh running surface. So with that said, we knew we had wear, we knew we had hot spots, we needed to get rid of that. The front housing, which is part of this set, had those same opposing burn marks, and it cleaned up great. We've got a little bit more wear to take care of, but it's a fine line between cutting too much off and leaving enough material, so we may not be able to get rid of all of that, but our water seal surface around our OEM water seal areas, our water jackets, and our running surface cleaned up almost like new, and we're within OEM tolerances, so really happy about that. And what I was noticing, as I like to check the housings quite often, is not only did we have a lot of wear, and the visible burn marks we had up here on the surface went away pretty quick, but it was what we couldn't see that really became of concern. Right here in our water sealing area, and I've already cut off almost 2/1000 of an inch, and we're trying to keep this housing under 3/1000 of an inch total cut tolerance. That gives us some allowable thickness within OEM tolerances and hopefully a little nitride left, although I feel like once we've cut about 3/4 off, we're generally through the nitride. But some of these older housings did have some pretty thick, dense nitriding properties, and it does taper off as it goes back, so it's not just an on-off switch. But you can see that big wear and that hot spot. Now, this hot spot right here is shrinkage, and that's right on the bridge and where the water O-ring sits, and it's already an area that's subject to failure because of the bridge. You've narrowed this anyways, and now we have even less quality of a sealing area because it's got heat shrinkage here on the metal. And since I know I've already cut off about 1.5 thou, that tells me that we probably had about 0.02 plus of an inch of shrinkage, which is bordering on where Mazdas start to fail. And I bet if I measure the rotor housings, they've also got some opposing shrinkage. It's very normal. So once you're approaching that 0.03 of an inch gap, which we potentially had here, 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 all around this housing, these shrinkages in the water seal area, I think it was really unlikely that this motor would have sealed up well if it had been built. And I think this was probably a motor that would have failed very quickly, most likely subject to water seal failure, and it would have had smoke on startup because of the amount of wear it had. The oil control rings would have not been able to seal, wear on both sides, while the motor was sitting. And that's often the case when you get smoke on startup, unless when you're running, you've got just enough area right here that the oil control ring, the oil seal, isn't able to seal properly. On top of that, your side seals instantly wear into pre-existing wear if you're putting new side seals in, and it's going to affect compression. You're never going to get perfect compression with a gap for the side seals to wear into or run over. So just a bad idea to leave significant wear. Bad idea to leave burn marks unchecked. And then in this case, you can look, you see those burn marks, but you don't see the shrinkage around the water area until we started to cut some material off and really see what was going on. So I think another reason to do lapping when you have a housing that's subject to damage or maybe an unknown past is to protect yourself from potential unknown failure points. Again, to me, this right here, all of this wear, the burn marks, and now we're seeing an area that's was never going to seal up right. The chances of this motor surviving long term were really, really slim. But with it lapped, properly cleaned, everything polished back up, we're going to check those rotor housings, make sure they're within spec. We're going to be able to bring these housings, at least the side plates, back to OEM spec to where a rotor housing should seal up properly, and you shouldn't have any smoke on startup, and you should have a good long lifespan for the motor. I think a neat thing to point out is even when you're dealing with lapped housings and you're potentially removing nitriding, I've never had a housing be the first point of failure, meaning you're never hearing about how people take motors apart because cast iron components fail. It's usually other related components in rebuilt motors that are subject to wearing out before cast iron components. Another reason why, just like in the piston world, we do block resurfacing or flattening so everything seals properly so you can get the best lifespan possible out of used components. Second lives, reusing. Obviously, if we could all afford brand new 12A components to be then completely Bridgeported and brand new rotor housings with brand new rotors, that's going to give you the longest lifespan and best run quality, brand new everything. But when that's not possible, whether it be budget or because of parts availability, using things like lapping, rotor housing grinding, WPC treatment for rehardening, I think are all very viable options in the rotary world. They just need to be appropriately matched with the motor and what the motor is expected to do. Not all motors need lapping, but there are some motors and components that could definitely benefit or even get their second life or third life because of lapping. I hope that helps on the lapping topic. If anybody's got questions, definitely ask. This is the Mazda Tricks lapping table, now the KMR lapping table. So it's got 30 years now of rotary lapping history, very similar to what Racing Beat uses and a couple other shops in North America use. It's a great way to resurface side plates, side housings, whatever you like to call them, for rotary engines, whether they be early or late model, RX-7, Cosmo, RX-8. We've had success with them all, and we're aware of a lot of the different properties that those different housings carry, thicknesses, variations in nitriding, and variations in porosity of the material. So check out KMR. That's a wrap. I hope this helps. We do lapping. Most of my race motors are lapped. I'm going to get back to work. We're saving classic rotary parts here. Back to the grind.